Um, what I'd like to do is, I guess tell my story about how I got to ISTE. I'd like to talk about what Gen Ed can learn from special education, which I know I have some, at least a few guys that'll be interested in that. About changing perceptions and changing paradigm in special education, especially where it relates to technology, and creative ways. And I hope I don't spend so much time talking about my story that I can also show you guys some creative ways that we can make a difference in students' lives using technology. So hopefully I'll get that far. And I also want to answer any questions you guys have. So I promise that I will never stop talking unless somebody interrupts me. So please don't hesitate to stop me from that. Okay, so first off, my name is Wayland Scott. I teach at Fort Worth ISD school district, and the school that I teach at is called Boulevard Heights. Boulevard Heights is one of Fort Worth's alternative schools. They're going to put us in other because we're one of two highly restrictive schools in Fort Worth, and one of the schools is for more medically fragile students, and then the other school, the school that I teach at, is self-contained special education for students with behavioral and social needs that need a more highly restrictive environment. Most school districts, I think, might have a program similar to what we have, but it's been a good place to teach for a lot of good reasons. We get all the support that we need, and we end up having a lot of staff that's experts in a lot of things. So we have behavioral experts, and I'm kind of the technology guy. So that's been kind of my niche. Now, you guys that are out there, do you guys have similar programs in your school districts for students with special needs or alternative teaching programs? Okay, I can move on. So I guess if you ask me what I teach, I could say that I teach special education, but what I'll probably tell you is that I teach math and science and technology to special education students. I always want to emphasize that less than I'm teaching students that are special education, and more what we're teaching them because of the kinds of labels and things that people put on special education. And I want to emphasize that the importance of technology. So it's my first time to EC Global, and please bear with me, and I'll use this to improve on the presentation that I'll be doing next year if EC Global will have me. I met Dee and Deborah in Chicago, and at the ISTE conference, and I'd asked what I should talk about, and they said they'd heard my story and they liked it, and maybe I should just tell my story. So I guess I'll start with my story while I'm looking for my blurb here. I don't do a whole lot of work on the website, but there's some. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I talked a little bit about my history prior to teaching in logistics, and I've spent about 16 years doing that, and needed a career change, and I've been able to use some of those skills, those technology skills that in logistical and transportation skills, and oddly enough in special education. So what landed me at ISTE was that that I think I've just been able to challenge people's perception and how they feel about special education and technology, and especially people that really haven't had a lot of experience working with special education. So people kind of have their perceptions and how they feel about things. And uh, early in my teaching career, I affirmed my belief in how productive I was as a member of the team, because my peers had voted me a teacher of the campus. And that it turned into a kind of a stepping stone. Because of that, I was nominated for the uh, the the chair of teaching excellence, which is a program that they have in Fort Worth for teachers that are excellent in particular categories. Um, uh, they'll have the competition for teachers that are excellent in math and excellent in science, and secondary math and science and performing arts and CTE and special education, things like that. And you would probably expect for a person who teaches special education to apply for a special education award. And my strength has always been in technology, and I kind of broke the mold a little bit, and I had applied for a CTE because not so much for the career portion, because most of, or all my students, they're not going to go to college, and they're probably some of them may get productive jobs, but most of them are not going to get jobs. But I do teach technology, so that does fall under CTE. And what I ended up doing was sharing with some business leaders and community leaders about what it is that I do in special education, and how, especially how I teach nonverbal students to talk, and how I build tech tools for specific student needs. And when they saw that, I think they probably thought a little bit differently about the role of technology in education, and especially where it comes to career and technology, where other participants were building bridges and showing their students around robotics and things like that. I'm helping students use technology to learn to talk. So I think it probably sent a different message about technology than maybe they thought they're going to hear. And so I won that award, and that, I think that made me the first special education teacher to win the CTE award. And then the next year there's the Tech Iowa competition, which is really how I made it to ISTE, because I had the district had put on a competition which they called Tech Idol, and the competition was for technology integration into the classroom, and I'd won that competition. So the grand prize for the competition was a trip to ISTE, and the way that I won that competition was kind of the same thing. I had kind of an over the top kind of presentation that actually showed the student engagement and put the students' activities on display. And then I had members of my team that supported me. They had announced the winner at the 4th ISD Tech Conference, which I presented at, and they filled up the front row, and they had encouraged the rest of the 1,500 people or so there to vote for me. And based on my presentation and the response to some questions and the people voting, that I was the winner of that competition, and the prize was to go to ISTE as an all expenses paid trip. So and the last thing I did to get to this EC Global was that I had met Dee, and I'd met Deborah, and and had shared with them my story, and so here I am. So hopefully that that wasn't too boring. But did you guys have any questions about my claim to fame?
Wayland, can you see the chat box at the bottom? Kathy's asked a couple questions and made
Okay.
for you. It's an orange box, kind of. When you hover at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat, or it may say more, and you have to look at the chat.
Okay, let's do that. Let's look at that. I see chats.
Let's see. And mine might be a little bit different because I'm recording as well. But let's see.
I wonder.
Let's see.
I'm gonna pull it off of share.
Okay.
And maybe that'll help.
So. Maybe so.
Maybe, I hope.
Okay, we'll play. We'll see.
And apologize for that. I pulled up a chat box. I see the chat box, and it's asking about a new chat. I don't want a new chat. I want the chat that we have.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Well, Kathy said as well that one of her goals is to get comfortable with Zoom, and I responded, yes, this is my first big giant Zoom experience, so I've had lots of, so we're all in the same boat with that.
No worries. I don't want to inconvenience anybody else.
Yeah, no.
I want to answer questions.
So I guess the big question she said, it's awesome that you switched careers and got the award. What did you use for the presentation?
Okay, so the presentation, the way that this was set up was, and I guess I can talk a little bit more about, I'm sorry? Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about kind of finding your voice, because I've always been able to talk more about not just the things that I teach in special education, but the importance of all these other things. And so I kind of put that into my presentation. What did I use? The first segment of the competition was to send a 2-minute video about yourself, and why you feel like you should be tech idle. And I'll tell you what I did differently was, if you can see my face talking to you, they used Flipgrid for this. Then that's what all the contestants that made it to the top 25 did, except for me. What I did was I just made a very thought out video that kind of displayed my skills and showed and actually showed what the students are learning, what the students are doing, and why I felt like it was important that I was that I participated in this competition. And I don't know if anybody else really thought that was an option, because one thing I didn't want to do was just show people, just talk to people and tell them why I felt like I was important. So I wanted to show them why I felt like I was important, and that's what I did. So that was the first submission, and that's what got me into the top 25, I think. And then the second, there's another level where I would give a 5-minute, I would show a 5-minute video doing kind of the same thing. I'll tell you what I could do. Well, I seem to be losing my voice. I could actually show you the video if you guys are interested. Then I could show you that first video, and hopefully you'll have sound, or I could give you I can also, if I can pull up the chat box, post a link. I wonder if I didn't close that chat box off when I first opened it, or maybe if I make this full screen. I'm gonna try this real quick, just to see if this helps while I'm just kind of learning I've used Zoom a few times. Maybe this is the chat box. Aha, there we go. Okay, so here's what we have. Yes, I need Zoom experience also. And not only did I switch careers, but I got the kind of award. But I got that kind of award. And then what did I use my presentation? So what I'll do is, I think just because it's a couple of minutes, I'll show you guys the video. Oh wow, I hope I can get back to that. Hopefully I will. So let's see. Let's see if I can pull this up. This is my private, I guess, YouTube calendar, video library. Maybe it's a teaching video. Oh, there we go. So this was the stage one of my submission, and maybe while I play it, I'll fix my voice, and hopefully you guys will get sound. And if you don't, I can also use a link or something like that. So we'll check this out. Most everything in my room begs a question. What will this do? Why does this work? What will happen next? When I find a student's interest, I hone in on it. Build technology around it. When I can't find their interest, I just keep building stuff until I do. That's what earned me teaching chair for career and technology education in 2016. In fact, I might be the only special education teacher in Fort Worth ever to be presented without honor in CTE. I'm Wayland Scott, representing Boulevard Heights, and innovate is how I educate. I'd like to show you what I've been innovating for the past few years. It works as a hub for my other innovations and students' environments, and pretty much drives everything I do while I teach. It's my interactive visual schedule. With this technology, I keep my students engaged and keep the teaching student-led. This is how I ignite a passion for learning in anyone in my room and ensure all ALL of my students are prepared for success in college, career, and community leadership. My interactive tool is ideal for special education students, but I'm promoting it for all primary level students. It's what I'll be presenting for the Region 1011 and the 2018 Fort Worth ISD Tech Conference. If I win Tech Idol, I'm hoping the trip to Chicago will yield inspiration and maybe opportunities to develop my tool into a software that can be easily shared throughout the district and beyond. But don't take my word for it. Stop by and visit. See what it can do. Thank you for watching. So that was my submission, and that's how I got to level 2, which was this video, which was 5 minutes. But and we can show that or not. But the important thing is that once again, it was definitely more entertaining than just watching me talk. Right? You got to see what the students were doing, and I didn't think I was doing it at the time, but I was kind of thinking outside the box because nobody else put that much effort into it. It seemed like they put that much effort into the submission, and it was kind of like that throughout the competition. I mean, a lot of people wanted to do the competition. A lot of people submitted stuff, and the second video is kind of similar. I show what I'm doing. I show what the students are doing. You see a little bit more of me interacting with my students. It included a soundtrack, so it was a little bit more fun. And you also get to see what happens over time. I show the same kid when he's a kid, 3 years, and then I show him 3 years later, and you can see, in the video, the difference between, when he started and where he ended up. So, that's just kind of a taste of what set me apart from other people. And once again, it showed people the kinds of things that can happen in special education. So a lot of times what people were thinking of, and how things match up are different. Which I guess, you know, we could also ask, you know, is perception reality? And what we'll find is, let's see if I get the same Google search I did last night. Is it, there it goes.
According to Quora, but people still don't understand the simple fact that perception is different from reality, and that everyone has their own perception of the world. Everyone thinks their perception is reality. So there become millions of realities, when in fact there was only one. And
it's always bothered me because I've been in places in logistics, and for a while there's this catchphrase, and everybody would say perception is reality, and I always rejected that because I knew very well that you know, I need to present a certain image, but at the same time, if that image isn't true to reality, then, you know, I'm misleading people, and I think that happens a lot in people's perceptions. I like this because, you know, this guy sees 4, and this guy sees 3, and it's their perspective. If you cover that up, the sound waves and you know, the electric guitar there that I was doing the other day at school. So I'm using some technologies right now. You guys have seen me use, you know, Google Voice. This is something that you can use to help, you know, English as secondary learners and you know, other people that are having problems with English, and it's something functional that people use throughout their day every day. So, you know, that's, you know, just a little teaching tool that might help. And this is a snipping tool. You know, a lot of smart boards will have the same kind of technology there, but you know, we're taking something that we see, and then we're using technology to build on it. So if you were to here, let's copy that, and then we'll paste it in somewhere. There we go. Now let's just take a shape. I have one there. We're not talking about voters, and I'll put this in front. I'm talking about the things that I'm doing because that'll help. So this guy is going to see 3. He says, I see 3. And this guy is going to see 4. And he says, I see 4, right? And we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And so there's always this reality that's different. And you know, and again, people's perception and reality are different, and people's perception of special education doesn't always match. And so I always like to show people how things can be, because usually when people are thinking about special education, they're not thinking about using things like the snipping tool, and they're not thinking about you know, using things like Google Voice. But they should be. If they're not, they should be. And I think that you know, anybody who's taught special education for a long time, especially right now, they're teaching with these technologies. But there's a paradigm shift that is only starting to happen. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that, because hopefully I'm not missing any chat questions. So I talked to you guys a little bit when you watch the video about, you know, this kind of Excel tool that I use to maintain my student schedule and throughout the day, which this is my summer school schedule, so it just runs until noon. But I organize it in a way that there's a toolbox for everything that we might possibly need for, say, science. Let's go to science. I don't know where I'm going. There's a science toolbox. There we go. And these pictures here will all take you places that we might use for science. And so I've tried to organize this in a way that you might see like on an iPad or something like that. They look kind of like apps, you know, and this is how people navigate. And if they do it in my classroom, they'll do it on an iPad. But, you know, this whole idea kind of came from, you know, special education. I mean, we were using visual, you know, Mayor Johnson was using visual icons, you know, way back. And you know, that was kind of our predecessor to the kinds of visual icons that we use today. And not just in special education, because anybody who looks at their smartphone is going to use visual icons to get, you know, to the apps that they want. And you know, these people in special education are innovators, and people in special education are inventors, and we develop things, like some of the things that I've developed. I'm going to stop right there, and ask for some interaction on what you guys think about some of these things, about maybe about the competition, or maybe about perception as reality, or some of the technology teaching tools that I might have shown, and see what time it is. I don't want to. Okay, so I still have half an hour. So what questions or comments might you have while I check out the chat room? I can remember how I did it.
Can you hear me, Wayland?
I can.
Oh, good. I would like to know more how you used Excel, or if you can either share now, specifically what you did, or if you have some documentation. I don't have a smart board, and I generally use everything Google Sheets, Google Docs. But this looks really interesting, so I don't know whether you can share what more you could share about that.
I can, and I'm going to I'm going to also tell you guys that if you want to contact me for more information, because I might leave some details out, or I might not give you exactly what you're asking for, you can always contact me. It's Wayland, WAYLAND, just like it says here, .Scott at Fort Worth at fwisd.org, and just email me. So I'll start out with a story. I'll tell you guys about a student that I had. The thing about Excel is I've always been comfortable working in Excel, and I can do just about anything that I want to do in Excel. So that's going to be the tool that I kind of naturally gravitate towards. And when I had first started teaching, I had a student, and I had noticed, I'm going to open up a new sheet, and I noticed that he had, I'd heard something from the back of the room, and he was saying, right click, copy, and paste, and then you have a hyperlink, and I go back in there, and I noticed that this kid is making hyperlinks in a spreadsheet, and he'd learned it from me because I've been modeling it from him. But I didn't realize when I was doing that I was teaching him. I didn't look at things like, I've always been interested in teaching technology, but up to that point, I didn't realize how much I could teach just through modeling, and how far I could take it, because I'd inadvertently taught this kid how to make hyperlinks in Excel. And so, I kind of ran through it, and then from that point, I was very cognizant about what I was doing and describing what I was doing, because I realized that while I'm talking through these things, do a right click, copy, paste, right? That people were listening, and people were following that. And this kid was building an Excel spreadsheet with hyperlinks to his favorite YouTube videos, which makes it functional and something that he can help find what he's looking for outside of school, doing it in his free time. I certainly wouldn't knock the educational value of Excel. Most of the things that I do in Excel, when you're talking about the cool bells and whistles and flashy stuff, it's macros and it's hyperlinks. And that's really the difference between Google Docs and Microsoft Excel. The Google Docs and Google Classroom and that stuff is really, really great and really important, and is beneficial for collaborating, and for teaching remotely, and for getting engagement without spending one-to-one time with every student. It's great for a lot of reasons. So I don't knock on that, but I don't think it's going to run the kinds of stuff that I do. So I'll show you a few things. Mostly what I do is just hyperlinks, and a hyperlink, you click on something and it does something. It'll usually take you somewhere. And here's how it works. If you do a right click, and I'll do edit hyperlink. I selected that. That's just a picture. It's just an icon. Okay, it could be like any picture. And I did a right click and I went to hyperlink. And I can link this to any web page. And I'll put the web address here. So when I click on it, it'll go to that website. And you can see how that would help a student, right? Who needs to remember to go to whatever website or whatever part of their schedule they need to go to. I can go to a place in this document. And these are all places in this particular Excel file, right? And these are the tabs. So this tab is for A, and there's for A. So if I tell it to go there, then when you click on it, that's where it'll go. And then also an email address. So, and then there's some Outlook things if you set it up. Then, you know, I have Excel files that when the students go through them and then they click submit, then it will send their mom or somebody an email and do some of the same things that you'll find in apps that they're developed, like, you know, Google Classroom and stuff like that, where you'll get notifications sent home, you know, and I'll just customize it for what I want given those situations. And I may go into that a little bit further, but so that's, you know, that's most of this. I'll find an icon that the students can relate to, like science, or they may know that the red toolbox is for math and the green toolbox is for science, you know, and then they know where it's going to go. And then, you know, these are places in their schedule. So if it's 9 o'clock, where are they going to go next? Well, at 9:45, you know, they'll go to this classroom and they'll do reading, they'll do social studies. And then I'll get just a little bit more involved by telling you guys about macros, because you can, another cool thing you can do with Excel is speech automation. And then that's my student. So the importance here is that sometimes students need something other than your voice to help them through the day. They get tired of listening to you, and sometimes it's better to remove you from the equation, and sometimes that'll help. I had reprogrammed this student's voice under, what was it I made it say?
Miriam, what are you doing? Please stand up. Let's look at the clock.
To remind her how much time we had before, you know, mom was going to come pick you up. How did I do that? Well, there's a macro, which just to make things more confusing, when you click on this, it should say Miss Kim, but I programmed it to say that other thing. And here's how I did it. So if I assign the macro, then I'm probably losing some people here, but I'll go to Kim. There it is. Okay, so that's the program that's going to happen when you click on this. It's going to do something, right? And this is how simple it is. When it comes up, where'd it go? I don't know why I'm not seeing my macro in the box here. I'm gonna try it again. Let's try it again. I'll go through the same process and assign the macro. I'm looking for the macro called Kim. It's alphabetical. Okay, so let's edit that. There it goes. Okay, so the macro is called Kim, just like I have all these other macros called other things. And then so when I click on the one that's called Kim, then it says to activate the application that is speech and to speak this. So I can change that, and I can put in there whatever I want. So let's just say, welcome to ECG. Okay, this is some kind of technical stuff, but you know, that's okay. I can always, you know, explain it a little bit differently and you know, talk about, you know, some ways that could help you specifically. And so now when I click on this, instead of saying the other thing, it'll say
welcome to ECG.
It'll say that. And then there are other macros that I can get to do other things. But you know, a lot of them, it's this simple. The student needs to hear something. What is it they need to hear? So that's something. I'm not sure if I answered exactly. You know, you want to know some of the things that I do in Excel. Most of them are involving, you know, hyperlinks and then macros. And then there's lots of visuals here. So these visuals, these are just pictures. I mean, and I can resize them and do other things. It has all the you know, the Microsoft properties on there. And then other than that, it's just organization. It just needs to have a logic to it. so the students, you know, are comfortable with what the program is gonna do. Does that kind of answer your question, or send you in the right direction?
Oh, yes, yes. I forgot I had my audio on or off, but yeah, that's awesome.
And you know, and so the thing to remember about Excel is baby steps. You learn a little piece at a time, and it's overwhelming at first, and you do some tutorials and you do some training and you learn some stuff, and then you build on it. You know, just like anything else. You know, just like, you know, trigonometry. You know, and you take your skills and you advance them and you build on them. And if there's something I don't know how to do, then I will do a Google search. So good things to remember are things like, you know, WikiHow, you know, and like, for example, I might need and this is something I don't know how to do, but I know that I can do it. So at some point in the future, I might need to do it. I might need to learn how to do it. So I might say, and the language that this uses is Visual Basic, VBA, and it's, you know, like that kind of coding is like, you know, 1980s coding. I mean, it's not Python or any of the new stuff that people use to code stuff, but it's still used and it's still out there. And so I would say VBA, how to VLOOKUP a photo, right? So that if I type something in, then it'll just pull up a photo out of a photo library. And I don't know how to do that. But if I do a search for it, then, you know, I'm going to find videos on YouTube on how to do that. And that's, you know, how I've learned all my neat Excel tricks. And I'm all pretty much self-taught. I mean, I find something that I don't know, or there's some problem I need to solve, and then I do the research, and, you know, I listen to somebody else, you know, and this is something that's really great if it's something basic that your students need to learn. You know, there was one time when I pulled up a YouTube video, and there's, you know, and I'm working with my students, and there's an 8-year-old showing me how to do something I don't know how to do. That's pretty powerful for kids to see that my teacher's learning from another kid. You know, even for our special education kids, you know, that you know, it's important to see that you know, that we respect everybody as individuals, and respect everybody for what they can show us, and what we can learn from them, and you know, we learn from everybody. So things I don't know how to do, I'll find out and I'll figure it out, and I'll work through problems one by one. And you know, I might learn from somebody else. Does that help? I'm looking for maybe
the spreadsheet and how you did that.
What's that?
That really helped. Showing
So
what you did and how you did it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, and you know, you know, I'll use these things to create more things, and you know, I've been able to do some pretty cool stuff in Excel. I haven't talked any about LAMP, but I'll do that, and then I'll show you how I kind of augmented that. So, and if you're not familiar with this, it may look kind of complicated, but especially for English as second learners, I mean, this is how I teach my nonverbal students to communicate. And some of them, even if they can only you know, understand some of these icons, you know, like maybe yes or no, or eat or go, we can use this tool to build on their communication skills. And I haven't had a student yet that I haven't made progress using this. This is not mine. This is this particular program is called New Voice. You can download it for a PC. It's brought to you by a company called PRC, and they make this software for iPads, and it's basically an AAC, you know, augmented communication device, to help special education students learn how to, or you know, anybody who's nonverbal actually, you know, express themselves without using their vocal voice. And this is an actual language. I mean, there are other programs that do this, like Prologo is another one. That's more, I'm sorry?
What did you just say?
Unless I'm mispronouncing it, I think it's Prolo to Go is another AAC, the modality, and I don't use it or subscribe to it because I like this so much, basically. But I will tell you that a situation where that's good, if you have a student that wants to make a particular phrase, like I'd like to eat lunch now. Then you can kind of build a menu where the student can say different phrases. And it's kind of limiting because then you're only going to be using those particular phrases, where this is more like a language where you can communicate an array of things. You can either using these core words or using the vocabulary that's behind the core words. So this is the go page, and then there are different menu of buildings you could go to, or these specific things, you can use these to communicate where you're, places that you would go. Whereas the other product that I was telling you about, the Prolo to Go, then you would just be able to say that one phrase, I want to go to the bathroom, right? So you can see how kind of limiting that would be. And the other problem with that particular technology is that you could have a classroom of students and they could all be using this product, and they could be set up differently for every single one of them. So it doesn't fit a collective reality. It fits an individual reality. So we want everybody to speak the same language. So that's why something like this product can help, because we're all learning the same thing. We're all using the same thing. We can all communicate better, using this. So this is a product that I use my I'm sorry, I got like a hair in my mouth I've been trying to get at. Probably I was choking earlier. Okay, so this is what I use my special education students to kind of teach the language, and then to kind of get back to some of the things that I've done with it. I've used this to build different programs. This is a different version of the same thing, except I put sound bites and videos behind each one of these icons, which makes it more motivating to students. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For the student that I had who was very attached to music, that I'd have trouble getting to his seat, then I would usually play this sound right here. She might like Genesis also. There's Phil Collins there. So we don't, and then 10 seconds is enough. We don't fight about things like this. We just redirect, So and then sometimes we'll do a brain break or something like that, and somebody wants to have a dance party, but at some point the dance party is over. Then what do you do to get people from that point back into the learning mode? And then I'd have a sound bite for that. And people would respond to that. Maybe with some humor. But what I want to point out is, I wonder if I got some feedback there. You get, I've used this technology and I've augmented it even further. And this is, this is kind of a handshake between Excel, because this is an Excel file, but I've hyperlinked it to a video that's on my computer, and that's all I did. So this is a picture, and then if I right click and I edit that hyperlink, you'll see this is where that video lives. And when you click on it, it just takes you to the video. And I have like probably a couple thousand of them. I collected over the years. And I'll show you one more for the student that will not accept no for an answer, and we could fight about it. But when I played this clip for my student, it goes on a little bit, but sometimes that's needed. So anyway, I had this student, and he was having problems accepting no, and I tried to tell him 3 different ways that the answer wasn't yes, and it just wasn't working for him, and I could sense that there's an imminent meltdown But when I played that video, he had started laughing and was distracted and had inadvertently forgotten why he was upset, or at least, in the very least, accepted no for an answer because, you know, we were able to move on with the lesson. So, you know, you can do stuff like that. That's why these things are important. And they're fun for the students, and they also help teach the language. I built another function in here that does, you know, speech. So we can, and I'll show you guys a little snippet of how we can use this to augment communication in functional ways, and how we can use core vocabulary that your speech pathologist will tell you to express just about anything.
Like. I like it.
And so if I were able to, and I'll show you how I did this also. If I were able to get a student to express this, right, then that's a higher level of communication right there, because they're not just expressing a want or a need, right, but they're not just initiating a response, but they're telling you how they feel about something. And when you can get that kind of communication, when you can use the technology to get somebody to tell you that, then you know that you're making progress, and you know that you've opened up their world, and that that you've improved the quality of life. And so here's how I did that. So if I do a right click on that and I look at the hyperlink, and then where is the hyperlink? It says insert. It should say edit. What have I done here? Let's clear that out. Let's see. There we go. Let's see if that shows us what we want to see. Not sure exactly what I've done here, but I can show you. I want to show you that where the actual hyperlink is. Oh, you know what? It's not a hyperlink. Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm back on track now. I'm confusing people. Okay, so the difference between a hyperlink and a macro. So it's not a hyperlink, it's a macro. So if I click on this, if I do a right click and then I assign the macro, the hyperlink tells you to go somewhere, and the macro says run this program. So if I assign the macro, and let's see, it's under like 49. So that's the name of the macro, and if I find it, so there it is, and then I edit it, then it just says, to say like out loud, application speech, speak like, and then it says to do some other things and some formatting things, to change the color to, you know, from gray to white or whatever, you know, so that it highlights it. And how did I figure out how to do this stuff? I went to Google, I did a web search, I found the code that I was looking for, I copied it, and I pasted it in here. So it's kind of the same thing I was saying earlier. If I'm not telling you specifically how to do something, I may not even know how to do it, but I knew where to find it, and I knew what to do when I had it. So, you know, this is how you can make technology work for you. And that, you know, that's why I can say that I'm good at lots of different technology type stuff. And then there's other stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff that I don't know, but if I encounter a problem, then if I keep digging, then I will find a solution to it. So my session's almost over, guys. I have about 7 more minutes. What are some final comments or some things that I can help you with, or before we turn this thing off?
Any other technologies that you use that you haven't shared yet? This is fascinating.
For sure. Okay, so here's what I do, because this is pretty important. I'm going to see if I can find the 10 most important tools. If I need to find where I saved it. Maybe if I do a search. And if not, I'll just have to rattle them off the top of my head. Let's see. Okay. I'm looking for 10 tools, because it's just, you know, there's some basic things that I use to do the things that I do. and I'm not going to spend our last few minutes looking for it. So I'll tell you, things that I use and some things that I've shown you guys. Use Google Voice and find an app that does text to speech. Okay, and I'll show you guys. So this right here, it says convert text to speech. If I can highlight this and then I click on this button, it will say it out loud.
I want you to have lock up in my sheet 2 and get the comment picture returned to my sheet 1. I have been searching and searching that.
And that gets to be a pretty useful tool with my special education students. And then if you have a microphone on your computer or PC, or if you don't, then you can get one. And then I use this for my Google searches. And sometimes, you know, the speech activation will just come up automatically, like maybe you've heard. And this is functional, and students use this, and we use it all the time. And there's no reason why we shouldn't use it in the classroom, barring inappropriate searches and things like that. You may need to put some controls in, because you know, some students in some classrooms, the second you click on this button, you're going to hear some poop word fly out, and they're waiting for that opportunity. But you can be creative and you can get around that. And you know, we don't have time to talk about how, but you know, if you use your imagination, you can solve those problems too. But it is important, and I use that. Other things that we use for making videos: Movie Maker, it's free, or iMovie for Macs, and it's free. Use those tools, and sound editing tools. For my sound bites and sound manipulation, I use Sony SoundForge, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you can also find apps that do the same thing, and you can use those things, and you can get them on your iPhones too, or your Android phones. I mean, they're, you know, sound processors and sound editors. I use those things and then maybe if you find a movie that's inappropriate, through some section, you can edit those sections out and still make a usable educational video, or if you wanted to, you know, change some language, then you can do some video manipulation. So you know, I use those things so I can get to the usable portions of videos that we can use. And so video modeling and self video modeling, the students can use to learn things. What else do I use? I mentioned doing research, using sites like WikiHow, and then I'll help students for things that they want to learn how to do. You want to learn, you know, what's legitimate and what's good, and what's appropriate. So you're teaching those things, but also you want people to learn that if they don't know how to do something, you can teach them resources to find those things. So WikiHow is another thing. What else do I use a lot of? I've talked a little bit about hyperlinks and macros, and I talked a little bit about the snipping tool. I took a snapshot of something that was online, and we can write on these things, and I use this all the time. So if you don't have a smart board, you can get on your PC, and you can, if it's not already on there and hidden somewhere, you can search for it and add it to your taskbar, or pin it down somewhere. And I use this at least several times a day, all the time. Anytime I need to explain something, I'll take a snapshot of it and I'll draw it on there, draw a picture or something like that, to help explain something. And that's called a snipping tool. Smart boards have these things built into them. If you don't have a smart board, that's something that you can do to get around that. There's some tools. What other questions? Okay, I'll go on a little bit. You can go to Firefox. If you don't have Firefox as a browser, you can download this. Pretty much the only thing I use Mozilla for is to download videos. And I guess I'll leave you guys with something I did this last week for one of my students. We spent the time talking about, you know, St. Elmo's Fire, the science phenomenon, not the movie or the song. And he's really interested in that, so I jumped on top of that. And we've been talking about static electricity in St. Elmo's Fire. We've looked at videos of that. The way he found out about it was his dad was a pilot. So I had his dad come to the school and give a presentation and talk to us about San Animals Fire. And we talked about that together and learned some stuff. And then the last thing that I did that I'll build on next week was I used the video that I downloaded, and then we found a picture of a cockpit. We edited that so that we removed the background, made it transparency, we could put videos behind it. So this is a PowerPoint, but I'm going to turn this PowerPoint into a movie.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, Wayland, but the next session is getting ready to start.
Oh, yeah, so kick me off.
Sorry.
No worries. No, that's awesome.
You've done such a great job, and I'm so glad Dee and Deb found you and encouraged you to do this. And so I think you and Kathy had fantastic conversations going there. So great connections.
I hope it was beneficial. I don't want to get anybody else's way. If you want to contact me for more information, or if I could be more helpful, then please do send me an email or look me up. I'm at Boulevard Heights at Fort Worth ISD, and my email is wayland.scott@fwisd.org. And thanks again, guys. Thank you very much.
And you can paste that link, your email address, in the docs in the room if you want to do that.
Yes, I'll jump on that if I can figure it out. Then
okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.